Good evening. I'd like to open the Town of Ayer Select Board meeting for Tuesday, August 18th, 2020. Just an open session remote participation meeting reminder. Due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, Governor Baker issued an emergency order temporarily suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. Public bodies otherwise governed by the open meeting law are temporarily relieved from the requirement that meetings be held in public places, open and physically accessible to the public, so long as measures are taken to ensure public access to the body's deliberations through adequate alternative means. This meeting will be broadcast live on Channel 8 and on Zoom. The public may participate remotely by following the call-in information on the bottom of the live broadcast screen. For the Zoom meeting information relating to remote participation, please contact Cindy Knox, the IT Director at canox@ayer.ma.us or at 978-772-8252 prior to the meeting. The first order, I'd like to call the meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And are there any changes to the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
The chair says aye. Agenda approved. I do have two announcements this evening before we begin. The first announcement is that I'd like to announce that Ayer was awarded a community development block grant specifically for during coronavirus. This impact grant was in the total of $309,510. The way this grant will be distributed is $45,000 will go to the Neshoba Associated Boards of Health, $32,400 to Loaves and Fishes Food Pantry, $17,010 to the Ayer Public Library, $12,600 to the Stone Soup Kitchen Ministries, $4,500 to the Ayer Council on Aging, and $180,000 to Ayer Microbusinesses, which are businesses with 5 employees or less. The other announcement is for early in-person voting for the September 1st, 2020 state primary election. Early in-person voting will take place in the first floor meeting room of Ayer Town Hall. All voters are to enter and exit the Town Hall from the Columbia Street side, the side entrance of the Town Hall. For the safety of all Town Hall employees and the public, the Town Hall will only be open to the public for the purposes of early voting. Physical public access to all Town Hall offices, including the Town Clerk's office, will remain closed during the dates and times of early voting. Anyone participating in early voting is required to wear a face mask while in Town Hall voting and to practice social distancing. For more information regarding early voting, please contact the Town Clerk's office at 978-772-8215 or at COPELAND@ayer.ma.us. You can find the schedule for early in-person voting on the town's website. First order, is there any public input this evening? No. So the first item up after that is Superintendent Mark Wetzel's from the Department of Public Works. There's a couple things to update on. Hi, Mark.
Good evening, Mark.
Am I live?
Yes, you are live.
Okay, so I have 3 items, relatively straightforward. The first one is a approval of a change order for the FY20 Main Street decorative light upgrades. We went out to bid for this last winter, and it took a long time to get the lights, but they finally were completed. Town meeting approved $70,000 for the upgrades, and I put in an add alternate for if we wanted to add additional lights to the contract. And so we decided to add 2 additional lights, and so that was the additional lights were $7,200 each, so it was an additional $14,400, which increased the contract to a total of $72,800. The project's complete. We do have an issue we're trying to figure out because the lights seem to be staying on during the day. I think we've narrowed down the problem. We just need to get out and fix it. There's a single photoelectric cell that is supposed to control the lights, and somehow that got disconnected during the installation. But we ended up putting in 9 new lights as part of this contract. So the change order is for $14,400 for signature by the chairman.
Any questions?
I have no questions.
No. Mark, how many lights total were changed out?
So in this contract, we did a total of 9, and I think 2 of them were double lights, and the rest were single lights. What we've done is we've prioritized which ones were. The old lights were put in the early 80s, and they're cast iron bases, and they're starting to rust and corrode, so they are somewhat dangerous. So we picked the worst ones and replaced those. I think it's made a big difference on the lighting on Main Street. So we've trying to think how many total. I think we have about another 10 or 15 before we've replaced all of the old lights.
Right. Yeah, I have no other questions.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve change order number 1 for the FY20 Main Street lights upgrade in the amounts of $14,400 for Cullen Electrical Contract.
I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye. Change order is passed.
So the next item is, so we applied about a year ago for funding for the Spectacle Pond PFAS water treatment plant, and we were awarded what's called a state revolving fund for drinking water. It's both state and federal funds, and basically it's a low interest, or in this case, a no interest loan with a 13% principal forgiveness. And so we've completed the design. It's out for bid right now. We're submitting all the paperwork to the state to start processing the loan agreement. And we need authority to file, which gives the town manager authority to sign applications and submittals on behalf of the town. So we have that form, and it is for approval and signature by the board.
No questions on the project or the funding, just on the motion. So is it a motion to approve the authority to file?
Yep.
That was my question. Thank you.
I don't have any questions.
I'll make a motion to approve the authority to file for the Spectacle Pond Ball Field PFAS treatment plant funding as presented.
I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And that motion passes.
Did you say you had questions on the funding?
No, it's just on the motion that was required for proper approval.
Okay. And then the third item is we're We're a member of the Central Massachusetts Regional Stormwater Coalition. And basically what we found was with our stormwater permitting requirements, every town is required to do the same thing. So a number of towns in central Massachusetts formed a coalition, and so we share resources and training. What ends up happening is a lot easier for a group to do it than for each individual town to do it. So, but the program is managed by the town of Spencer. So every community has to sign an intermunicipal agreement with Spencer to participate in the coalition. Typically, dues are set at $4,000 a year. The coalition reduced it to $1,000 for this year due to the financial strain of the COVID-19. So that's what the intermunicipal agreement is for this year, is for $1,000, and we have that included in our stormwater budget. So let's see, I think that is for signature by the board.
Scott, any questions?
So Mark, just a quick question. What kind of work does the organization do?
So we, one of the things we're doing right now is that we have an engineering firm that is reviewing all of the bylaws, developing updated stormwater bylaws, and reviewing regulations for the stormwater program. We also have, in our permit, we're required to do, let's see if I can get it right, it's IDDE, illicit discharge elimination. I forget what one of the D's stands for, but basically we have to go out and inspect all of our outfalls and see if there's any illicit discharges, oils, or other pollutants coming out of the stormwater. So we have a consortium that hired an engineering firm that is doing that as for each town. And then we also have a public education component. So you'll see things that we put out on the website or post on Facebook, leave information at the library on public education related to stormwater. So those are some of the main things that they do. I know we also have some coalition training of staff to be able to manage the stormwater better.
Thank you, Mark.
So Mark, just curious, is Spencer the only town that Ayer would enter into this agreement? And is it because they are the ones who manage the funds?
Right. So everybody is paying Spencer the money, and then as we hire consultants or buy supplies or whatever, that gets funneled through the majority of it gets funneled through Spencer. But for instance, for the IDDE work, we have a separate agreement with the engineering firm that's doing that. But they have that engineering firm has an agreement with every town. So, and actually they're out doing the work this week.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
Okay. I'll make a motion for the Board of Selectmen, the Select Board to sign the intermunicipal agreement with Spencer to join the CMRSWC as presented.
Second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Chair says aye. Motion passes.
Great. That's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Mark. Have a good night.
Yep.
Next up, we have a report from Alan, the Director of the Community and Economic Development.
Good evening to all. Thank you. The first item is just an update on our Ayer Municipal Master Plan implementation process. I think, as you all know, we were in a wonderful groove. It's a last year. We're having very dynamic, our interactive luncheon sessions where all departments, members of various boards and commissions and other outside partners are coming in. Of course, with COVID, that all had to cease in the springtime and since. So I did submit a memo to the office of the town manager describing some of the steps, how we'd like to, get back in our master plan implementation groove with everyone. So what we're going to do, when we were at the step where we're going to start doing what we're calling our synthesis sessions, very successful with the priority kind of projects the departments were doing, but the next step now is to go a little bit deeper and start interfacing with various boards and commissions. And what we'd like to do going forward, hopefully, over the next few weeks and into the fall, are set up, and these would all, of course, be remote Zoom sessions, but to bring in a number of our departments, maybe sort of a representative group, and have a session with the Ayer Finance Committee. We'd like to then follow up and do a session with the Ayer Capital Planning Committee, and then do a session with the Ayer Planning Board. And these are the three, we think, prime boards and commissions that are really involved with long-range planning and, frankly, budgeting and where our priorities are, because a lot of the, more comprehensive or large-term items and measures in the master plan do come with often a substantial cost impact figure. So we need to start seeing how we can start budgeting for those and planning. So we will go forward and start doing our sessions, again, with those three boards: finance, capital planning, and planning board. We hoped, we'd like to try to maybe reinstitute the luncheon sessions, but I don't believe that's going to happen, obviously, into the fall and probably through the winter. We may end up re-engaging with that, where we could actually be together, in a group, I'm hoping into the spring. But we may be able to do those luncheon sessions remotely as well via Zoom. So we're going to continue and, again, get back re-engaged. And then going, once we get past the winter, going into next spring, we would like to try to put together a larger public informational forum. And hopefully, although none of us know, we may be able to get together into next spring and bring people together conventionally as we once did. And then we'd like to do sort of success stories, because there have been some great success stories, and I think that's just an important thing to reinforce with everyone, the good work they've done. And we might try to do some types of tours of sites, facilities where the success has been. And we may be able to work with APAC and produce a video that we can get out to folks to show those success stories. So the bottom line is we are prepared to re-engage, and I will tell you the master plan, though, is living. I can just speak for myself and my department. The community development block grant application we submitted for the historic fire station that we're waiting to hear on the results, the master plan heavily was woven into that grant application. The COVID grant we just received, the master plan, many elements were woven into that grant application, successful. And we'll get to that. We are now pursuing a $3.5 million MassWorks grant. And again, so much of the master plan is being integrated into all these grants. So the plan is living. So I don't know if I can answer any questions beyond that or provide any additional information.
Alan, in your best guesstimate, how far along percentage-wise are we in implementing the items in the master plan?
Yes, I think we're feeling right now, we've probably gotten about a third. So I would say probably about, 30 to 35%.
Okay.
I think would be reasonable to quantify that.
Okay, I don't have any questions.
What do you think would be the next big item on the master plan that would be addressed?
Yeah, I really see the large item that's revolving around so much right now has a lot to do with transportation, our roadways, including ways to help people that are disadvantaged and otherwise that don't have, especially right now with COVID, where people do need to get out and access things. It's going to be the transportation issues, I think, that are going to really tie into a lot of these other items that have to do with housing development, as well as environmental impact. So I think a lot of it, I think the transportation section is going to really, and that of course often is one of the more costly things that we need to do. And I think Park Street may be a good example of that. We got the new form-based code in, but we need to transform that corridor, and a lot of it has to do with how we're going to design it for transportation and parking and such. So I think transportation is going to be the core of so many of these things going forward now.
Alan, you briefly mentioned that there was a large MassWorks grant that you're working on.
Yes.
Can you elaborate what project that would be for, or?
Yes, and I know we'll do it, but this is now the West Main Street corridor. I would say past over the railroad overpass bridge, where my favorite Korean restaurant in the world is, Woojung. But from there all the way out to Grant Road. So this is a $3.5 million grant we're pursuing, and it is the Town of Ayer, the Devon's Enterprise Commission, and Mass Development. And that grant will fund the complete physical public infrastructure transformation of that corridor out there. New roadway, stormwater drainage, a new sidewalk system, lighting, sidewalk trees, bike lane system, a bus shuttle waiting station. So it's really a comprehensive transformation of the entire space out there in the public infrastructure right of way. And we're doing that because there are a number of prospective developers and investors that would like to go out there and start transforming, but it's the but for the terrible condition of the infrastructure. The people of Ayer did a great job in passing the West Ayer Village form-based code at fall town meeting this past fall. So we have the new zoning in place for the transformation. Now we have to repair all the physical public infrastructure. And it does cut to the tune of $3.5 million. We submitted last year. We're in the queue again this year, and we hope to be successful. And we will know, they will announce the award winners of that grant in October. The grant is due submission August the 28th.
Anything else?
No, thank you, Alan.
Thank you. And then, do you have a couple of other items, right?
Yes, that's okay. Yeah, and the second item is just we are requesting approval of the UDAG portion of the Ayer Office of Community and Economic Development FY21 budget. And that figure this year in that budget is $75,128. And so we are requesting your approval of that portion of our FY21 budget.
Any questions from Matt?
This is the FY 2021, correct? Okay. Because the memo on the bottom is 20. I'll make a motion to approve the UDAG portion of the budget for the community and economic development around $75,128.
I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye. The request has been approved.
Thank you very much. And the final item, as I just described, the West Main Street MassWorks grant. Oh, we okay? Yep. Okay. Application. The third item, we are just requesting a letter of support via select board through the office of the town manager that we will be submitting with our MassWorks application on August the 28th. And it's a very important part of this to show that we do have the full support of our executive body in our town, and that scores us high, of course, on our grant application.
Any other questions, Scott?
No, I think it's a great program, good project if we can get the funding for it.
And thank you for explaining it. You did a really nice job with that. No. Does this need a motion?
So, Mr. Chairman, there's the draft letter that was prepared for the board's approval, so that the motion to approve it and the board would sign the letter.
Sure.
I'll make a motion to approve the letter of support for the West Main Street MassWorks application by the Ayer Select.
I will second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye, and the letter of support is approved. Anything else tonight, Alan?
No, we thank you all very, very much. And again, we thank everyone, our colleagues, and Robert and Carly and all of you for supporting us, through the COVID thing. And Alicia and I will keep doing our best.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Alan.
Have a great night.
Thank you.
So the next item up will be the town manager.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good evening. Thank you. In the interest of time, under the administrative update, the board has all of the town warrants that were reviewed and approved since the board last met on July 14th. Since we last met on July 14th, the administration has been involved in all kinds of activities, from COVID-19 activities, which I'll touch upon as far as preparedness, as well as the beginning of the implementation of the FY21 budget, through the Ayer Office of Economic and Community Development. As mentioned earlier, we were successful with the $309,000 CDBG grant, and we want to thank everybody involved with that, including this board, which back when COVID-19 started, the select board had said back in March and April that you wanted us to reach out to small businesses and on issues of food security and so forth. And a true testament to this board and to all of our folks with the town did do that, and we were successful in getting that grant. So in terms of next steps, Alan's office will be responsible for administering the grant and the grant funds. Some of it is pretty clear with our various partners, and then there's a pool of money for the micro businesses. We'll be developing, we have to follow state guidelines and so forth, but we obviously want to get the money out as soon as we can. So hopefully by the beginning of September, that will be the case, and we'll keep this board updated as we move forward. Additionally, we continue to track all COVID-19 related expenses. As the board's aware, the town is eligible through December 30th of up to $709,000 in reimbursable expenses related to COVID-19.
Oh, you know what?
The town is also in the process of completing the ADA, Americans with Disability Act review of the town's ADA plan and update. As the board recalls, the town got a grant to do that with the State Office of Disability, Mass Office of Disability. Again, Alan and Alicia in the Ayer Office of Economic Development, our facilities director, Chuck Schultz, has been working with the Montechusett Regional Planning Committee to do the finishing of all of the building site visits and so forth. Once that process is completed, we will be coming back to the select board for a brief presentation and a discussion on some of the findings of this and some of the next steps for the plan moving forward. Related to that, in terms of COVID-19 update, things remain in Ayer status quo, which is a good thing in terms of cases and so forth through the Neshoba Boards of Health and Board of Health. I'm pleased to report that no town personnel has been infected. We continue to build up our PPE reserves. Both the fire chief and police chief recently got another shipment of PPE for town personnel. Chief Pedrazi is handling the FEMA and MEMA grant process. Mr. Bree, the finance manager, and I are handling the CARES end on the grant. In addition, related to that, the IT department is going to be conducting a survey of all town personnel in all town departments to build upon our remote capability. We remain optimistic, of course, about COVID-19, but we also want to remain prepared in the event that we do move into a situation where there needs to be more remote work or so forth. We want to build upon that. So Ms. Knox, her office, will be doing that survey. We'll send it to the select board as well. It's an internal tool. We made a lot of progress on remote capabilities, but we want to build upon that, so we'll keep you informed. We also have developed a system through the finance department to do the accounts payable warrant remotely in the event of a shutdown. Additionally, Mr. Johnston, the benefits and payroll manager, and Ms. Tierney, the town treasurer, are both going to conduct and test the town's remote payroll capability remotely. So we're putting together a whole contingency plan that we hope we don't have to use, but it's better to be prepared as we move forward. Also, under the COVID-19 report, and I'll put up the first slide, and I have a handout for the board briefly. As I had mentioned previously, and Cindy, if you can put up the first there. The town's internal finance group, since the beginning of COVID-19, one of the concerns, of many concerns we have, is the economic and financial impact of the pandemic on the town of Ayer. And we continue to monitor this regularly, and we meet weekly. And we are in a very unique time in that we're trying to balance, if you will, two sides of the coin. On one hand, we know that over 40 million Americans have lost their jobs. Unemployment in Massachusetts, about 15%, 17% nationwide, depending on what you look at. I think that the town, and through this board, continues to do what we can through grants as well as the outdoor seating to help folks. Yet, on the flip side, as we know there's going to be all of these impacts, and I think the takeaway is, the question is when and how. So what you have in front of you, what's on the screen, this report was prepared by the internal finance group, specifically the finance manager, Mr. Bree, and the treasurer tax collector, Ms. Tierney. And it's a general fund revenue report comparison. And on the top, you have the revenue collected as of July 31st of this year, 2020. And on the bottom is July 31st of 2019. And as you can see, and it breaks down all of the revenue sources, as you can see, in terms of general fund revenues for this year compared to last year, we are on target. It's actually slightly ahead, but on target. However, the last tax payment was due August 1st. The next one will be November. We want the select board, we're interested in any input because we'd like to put this together on a monthly update. Keep the board, as I mentioned, and the finance committee and the public. This information will be available on the town's website as we track this. So as we sit here on August the 18th, we can see that revenues as of right now, we all know that this can change pretty quickly, but as of right now, we're on target in terms of revenue. The other piece that we know since the board last met, many of you heard that the state has kept local aid level. Ms. Cabri and the internal finance group, we did an analysis by keeping it level based on last year, this year. there is about an approximately $20,000 delta negative, $20,000 negative. When the board next meets, we'll have a brief, more detailed presentation on that for this board. Obviously, we deferred some things at town meeting to the tune of about 1.5 million. So there is a $20,000 decrease on the local aid front. But conversely, if you look, for example, at the retail marijuana money, even though they were shut down and so forth, that has exceeded the town's initial estimate. We have yet to build a history and accurate on that, but we planned for 40,000 a quarter. It did exceed that, so if you will, the $20,000 hit can be mitigated. We want to talk with you in more detail on that. So the first thing, I think the takeaway is we remain in a very unique time, in that we are aware, I think we all are professionally, personally, that there are going to be further impacts on this. Yet we have not, in terms of the revenue, we have not fully realized those impacts yet. So this is just, again, a snapshot in real time that collections, the takeaway for tonight, we're just into the fiscal year, about a month. Revenue collections are on target. The local aid situation is not catastrophic. There's a slight decrease of 20,000 there, and we continue to actively monitor it. And I hope that we continue to have favorable reports, but that's why we want you to have all of the information.
Do you have any questions? No, it's fairly straightforward.
I'm just curious on, so I noticed too, like on meals tax in this estimated revenue, it's up almost about $7,000 from last year. But was this estimation done prior to COVID-19? So will we see, like, in the months that those numbers change?
Yes.
The realities.
Yes, so we anticipate the local meals tax, obviously, that to be an area of change moving forward.
That's really it.
And then the second handout, if we go to the second slide, Cindy, and I have a handout for the board on this. And I want to thank the board and the town over the last several years, and the IT department and the finance departments have spent a lot of time, even before we knew what COVID-19 was, developing the town's online payment capacity and capabilities well before this, which has served the town well, and we continue to develop it. This document in front of you, this report was prepared by the town treasurer and tax collector, Ms. Tierney. We just wanted to show that during this time, the online payment comparison. So if we look on the far left column, you have the period of July 1st of 2019 through June 30th of 2019. And then you have July 1st of 2020. You can see the change, that the takeaway is that the online payment system, town-wide, the usage has increased by 135%. Specifically, one of the most used features, if you look on the third line, was the excise tax, actually increased by 4,022%. You can see the building department, so the general tax increase, 180% increase in the use of online payments for general taxes, 78% fire department, various permits, building department, 271%, the DPW, about a 50% increase, the town clerk, various certificates and documents, 115%, in total, 135%. So the online capability of the town is being used quite a bit. We talk frequently about IT and internal finance folks, how we can make this as seamless as possible. We're also open to any suggestions the board has or the public as to how we can further expand our online payments. So just another information we wanted you to have. And again, we're open to any questions or suggestions on that. Okay. The first action item is an appointment. The Montezut Joint Transportation Committee, which is a branch of the Montezut Regional Planning Committee. The Montezut Joint Transportation Committee meets regularly. It's consisted of various of the 24 towns in the area, looks at federal and state transportation issues as well as regional planning for transportation. It's also the committee that oversees the transportation improvement plan. You've heard us talk about the TIP. Various projects get onto the TIP, and it's quite a process. Long story short, every town is supposed to have a representative from its executive body, in this case, the select board, and a representative from the planning board. In this case, it's the town planner. So I'm looking, it has to be somebody from the select board. As I've mentioned in the past, obviously, if you can't make a meeting and so forth, we're in this as a team, somebody can cover, but they're looking for a select board designee. It'd be for 1 year. They meet once a month. They've been meeting by Zoom right now, and the information is in the packet. So we're just looking to see if the board wants to select a representative.
I'm open to it, and since I'm on the Montezut Regional Planning Committee already, so since it's a subcommittee of that, or if they do, it makes sense.
Well, thank you very much. I'll make a motion to nominate and approve Sean Copeland as the Air Select Board representative to Montezut Joint Transportation Committee.
I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye. An appointment.
Thank you, Sean.
The next item, and I believe Chief Murray is on remotely. Chief, are you there?
Evening, everybody.
Hello, Chief. Hi, Chief. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the next item, Chief Murray and I wanted to give you an update on the development of the community police forum. Just because we haven't met since July 14th. Previously, the select board wanted and is agreeable to facilitating a community forum to learn about, specifically learn about the Air Police Department and to start a dialogue on these issues with the police. And that was, I think in June we touched upon it. Since then, Chief Murray and I have been meeting to develop this. You may be familiar, there was one recently the town of Groton did that was facilitated by the Groton Select Board. We're looking to do, a similar type of situation as over there. The challenge, of course, as COVID-19 continues, we will have to use the Zoom, platform for this, but it is doable. And as the chief and I have discussed, we'd really like this first forum, at least the first part of it, to be about the Air Police Department, specifically to include information on what the Air Police Department does, what they don't do, meaning, misconceptions that may exist, all of the services they provide, and an overview of the Air Police Department budget, and an opportunity to start, as I mentioned, this dialogue with the public, the select board, and the police department. Lastly, and I'll turn it over to the chief, as we've been discussing it, we envision the forum to be held on a separate evening by the select board, so the select board would host it, obviously not part of a select board meeting, but its own standing item. It will have to be remotely at this time using the Zoom platform. We would also ask for the public to submit questions and comments prior to the forum, which we've been doing, but also the public to participate in the forum, but also to get information in advance. That we've been doing with a lot of the meetings, and we already have some questions and information already submitted about the police department, questions about the budget that we will want to discuss as well. And we're thinking, we'd like to schedule it to take place ideally in September, but no later than the beginning of October. So we're coming up on the end of August and talking with the chief, and he's getting his team together as well and presenting. We want to have some time to prepare fully, but ideally get it done in September. So I have the chief turn over to the chief through the chair, and then if the board has any questions or comments or feedback, and then we can discuss sort of next steps to get this together. Lastly, we also want to give a little bit of time, hence do it in September, no later than the beginning of October, to also publicize it and do some outreach. Chief, did you want to add anything, or?
No, I think you covered it, Robert. Again, our goal on this first one is more educational. We found that there are a great many people who really don't understand or know how the police department works and what it is we do. And we're hoping, I mean, it will be a brief, when I say brief, a couple-hour meeting. We're hoping in that meeting to give them at least some kind of understanding. And then we can always move on from there. I think this will play very well into another program that I'm starting. Since we cannot have our Citizens Police Academy anymore due to COVID, we're going to start a video session. I've spoke with Cindy Scott from APAC, my deputy, and another officer. And we're going to be putting together some kind of informational program we hope to air every 2 to 3 weeks to do much the same thing and just expand on this meeting that we're going to have.
Thank you. Did you have dates in mind in September?
What I was going to propose, and the chief and I just met recently on this, is for your first meeting, which we'll discuss, your first meeting in September, to sort of come back with sort of a proposed, outline of the proposed, some proposed dates, if that makes sense. So the chief can come back with sort of a general outline as to what the plan, for the forum is, and then we can select a date and time, because you'll be meeting the first week of September, and then we get that scheduled. Does that sound like an approach?
Yes, a good approach.
Okay, and then again, and as folks think about it, and we're open to any input, again, the select board will convene, in largely be Chief Murray and his team, touching upon it. We will do a section on the budget. There's been a lot of questions about the police budget. Why is it this much? How do we develop it? What is it used for? There's also a lot of misconceptions about the police budget as well. So there would definitely be a budget piece, how staffing is determined and so forth. And then after the police department sort of overview, the budget piece, any pre-comments, questions we receive in advance for that night, and then sort of discuss sort of next steps from there. It's sort of the general outline. But I think the takeaway is that first meeting in September, we'll come back with the outline. The board at that time, so we think we select the night to do it. Chief Murray has informed me that and I saw part of it, the one that was done in Groton did go 2 hours. That was a comprehensive presentation, plus questions from select board members as well as the public. So I'm not saying it has to be 2 hours, but we do want to structure it. So does that sound good?
Yeah.
Would the public only be able to submit questions ahead of time, or would there be a format that we could that people could facilitate, ask questions somewhat in real time?
Excellent question.
Sorry.
No, because, I'm glad you brought it up, because Chief Murray and I have been discussing this, and maybe get some feedback from the board. Obviously, the option will exist for people to submit in advance, because sometimes people can't attend or don't want to. The flip side is, we're not opposed to having a real live conversation or real live questions, but I think the challenge is, so that everybody can participate and that it's focused, is, I don't want to use the word control, but, keeping it within the scope of the forum. In other words, people get on and hey, chief or officer X, they start talking about all of their police issues, meaning on streets and stuff. The purpose of this forum is to provide, the first forum is to provide all of the information, including the budget information, questions on that. It's up to the board. Obviously the board is hosting the forum. We're not trying to control anything or what have you. We just want to make sure that it doesn't drift.
Sounds perhaps something similar to with the school.
Yeah,
Where there's, for lack of a better word, but a moderator who is collecting the chat questions. And, because I'm sure a lot of questions are similar. And so, they would be able to distill them.
And we go to the ones that are pertinent to the conversation.
Okay. When we come back with the outline, let's talk about that form. We're open to everything. I think, obviously want to take public input and comments. We just want to make sure it's on the topic today. And both the chief and I realize that there's a lot of information. It's a very important topic and important issue, so this probably won't be the one and only, as they say, and maybe from that discuss the next steps. Chief, did you have anything else?
No, I think we covered everything, Robert. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Stephen.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks. Have a great night.
You too.
The next item is the Sandy Pond School Association, as the board is aware, has completed phase 1 of the historic restoration and preservation of the Sandy Pond School. And I know many of you, myself included, were there last fall for the event. And phase 1 was completed, and they are now preparing to do phase 2. And as part of phase 2, they are submitting an application to the Community Preservation Committee seeking additional CPC funds under the historic category in the total amount of $187,340. The actual total cost for phase 2 is actually $191,910. But as you can see from the materials, phase 1 came in under budget, which is a testament to the Sandy Pond Association. As the board knows, the CPC has a pretty standard and rigorous application process. They'll be submitting the application. I believe Sandy Pond School is meeting with the CPC tomorrow, so this is timely. It goes through the process, there's public hearings, and then ultimately town meeting votes, as the board is aware. Mr. Irving Rockwood from Sandy Pond submitted a lot of information from the school association, And in your packet, we put together a proposed draft letter of support from the select board. And if the board is willing to approve and sign that letter, it would be submitted to the CPC tomorrow with their application.
I have no questions.
And now it's great progress. I'll make a motion to approve the select board letter of support for the Sandy Pond School Association CPC application. That's it.
I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye. And the letter of support is approved. If we could go backwards for 1 second. Sure. I meant to ask you, under the, you're talking about the funds that are available from the state for coronavirus-related expenses. Does that include modifications in supplies needed for school?
Excellent question. So the question of it is, and this is a gray area. So and I'm glad Mr. Chairman you brought it up. So we have been authorized up to $710,000 in reimbursable COVID-19 expenses through December 30th of this year, as the board knows. And the question is, can those funds be used for PPE and for school reopening costs? And when I say it's unclear, there is that, one, the schools have just submitted their plans. There's still a lot of information there as far as costs and so forth. We believe that we can submit it for reimbursement also for school costs as well. And the Neshoba Valley Technical High School superintendent recently informally asked, they've been asking their member towns if they would be amenable to authorizing some of those funds, reimbursable. I assume ASRSD will do the same. So what I think that we should do, respectfully, is let the schools develop a request, because I think we have up to $711,000. We've only been reimbursed out of that $28,000. We haven't had a lot of costs. All the other costs are FEMA costs. But we don't know what's going to happen. You know what I'm saying? With the whole COVID moving forward. So I think we should, in the near future, have that discussion. I think the first step, if it's up to the board, I can ask both Superintendent Malone and Superintendent Pigeon to submit sort of just what they're thinking as far as an estimate that doesn't hold us to it. And then the select board, the FinCom, we can look at it. We can't obviously, I think, authorize all of the funding for that, because we'll need some for the town.
Right.
Yeah. But why I say there's been no other funding source as of right now identified for school reopening costs. Now, things are so fluid that could change tonight after I said this. There may be a certain funding source for schools, but it's something that many of us feel, the town administrators in this area feel, that they're going to advise the schools to look to use some of the town's funding. So is that all right? What I'll do as far as the next step, the next meeting, just get some more information, and then we can discuss that as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. The next item 6, is the approval of the easement deed. This is 0 Park Street. This 0 Park Street is the Dunkin' Donuts drive-through. The board had previously approved, and let me just pull up, Ms. Antonellis actually put together a summary memo on the issue. When the property has been sold and the seller, give me 1 second, here it is. So what we're asking the board, so this is 0 Park Street, this is the easement for the drive. The previous owner has sold to a new entity. The board previously approved that easement because the easement does not impact the town negatively. In the transaction, they would like the easement to transact directly to the new owner. It didn't do that before. That's what it's referring to, the confirmatory deed. So it was, we agreed to the easement, but they want the easement to transfer, if you will, to the new owner. And so what we're seeking is, the board to approve, that easement deed for 0 Park Street. It doesn't change any of the terms of the easement, doesn't impact the town. It's more of a procedural issue. It was reviewed by our council, town council, attorney, Katie Klein, as well.
Who is the new owner?
The new owner is an entity called Bike Realty LLC. And as far as we know at this time, they are, as far as we know, are keeping both of their tenants, which are Dunkin' Donuts and the Verona Pizza.
With this, so this easement that you're asking for today would only apply to this sale. So then if that person sold it, we'd have to do it again, or would this be something that transacts with that property
It would,
every time?
it will transfer this easement to this new owner, and it will be on their deed. So when if they were to sell it, it will follow. See, what happened was nothing the town did. When the transaction was done, the way the easement is recorded, it didn't transfer from a legal.
Now, no other questions. So I'll make a motion to approve the easement deed for 0 Park Street with Bike Realty LLC.
I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye. The easement is approved. Yeah, sure, that's the board, yeah.
And then the next item 7, is the execution of the National Grid easement. This easement was approved at the most recent annual town meeting on June 15, 2020, as Article 35. And this is for the easement for the overhead electrical for the Ayer Rail Trail parking facility. And the board previously, on November 5th, 2019, approved a license agreement that was drafted by our town council to allow them to connect the electricity, subject to town meeting approving the easement, which it did on June 15th. And now we're tonight asking the board to vote to approve the easement and sign it.
Any questions?
No. Do we need to give the specific address?
Yes, National Grid easement on the address to Selectman Hood's point is Groton Street, easement for Groton Street, pole 1-51.
I'll make a motion to approve the execution of National Grid easement for Groton Street Pole 1-51 as presented.
I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye.
Item 8, which is also highlighted in the memo from the Assistant Town Manager from August 13th, respectfully requesting the board will consider reauthorization of the remaining UDAG funds in the amount of $7,450 at Depot Square, specifically for the landscaping involved in phase 2. Just to bring everyone up to speed, currently during COVID-19, we're able to, working with Mark, begin phase 2, which is Depot Square design, which that design is based on with the town that does a series of community workshops that Alan put together. You've probably seen the driveway, the plaza, and so forth. The piece of it, the landscaping, which was originally going to come under the project, due to initial delays with the project, cetera, this going way back. There is no funding available for the phase two, if you will, the landscaping. We would like to do the landscaping. The landscaping will consist of some trees, approximately 50 plantings, as highlighted in the memo. The board had previously authorized funding for the Depot Square as it pertained to the Worthingdale lawsuit and settling that issue. And there is remaining from that amount about $8,000. We're looking for, or asking the board to consider reprogramming. So it's already been authorized for Depot Square, but it was authorized to resolve the eminent domain issues. $7,450 so that we will be able to do the landscaping for phase two of the project. And that it will consist of planting of trees and over 50 plants. There's these raised bed planters and so forth that have been put in. Penards would be doing the work.
I don't have any questions.
So Mark put forward about 200,000 or 250,000 towards the project.
Yep.
Have they come back with anything else, or is that kind of our cap for funding from Mark?
That right now is sort of our cap right now. We are going to be looking for some additional funding. Of course, the situation has been complicated by COVID-19. So right now, so phase two is the plaza, the lighting, the driveway, the shelter area. It includes, which through Alan's office, the restoration of the historic fountain. This would be the landscaping, which would be the trees and all of the plantings. And then we will be looking for additional funding to build upon that. Other piece is the bathroom facility is phase three. That's completely funded by Mark. So the funding's there. That's being designed. That hasn't started. So we will be continuing to look for additional funds. But this, if you will complete the landscaping piece.
I don't have any questions.
I'll make a motion to reauthorize the remaining UDAC funds for Depot Square, for Depot Square landscaping and whatever you want.
That, all those in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye. And the reauthorization of the red funds is approved.
Thank you. The next item, it's hard to believe, but is we're respectfully requesting that the board vote to open the fall special town meeting warrant, officially opening it by a vote of the board. I put in the memo, my memo to you, the timeline. If the board opens the warrant tonight on August 18th, the warrant will remain open with a deadline of Friday, October 2nd at noon for all warrant articles, including citizens' petitions through the town clerk's office. We would then come back to the select board on October 6th for the board to approve the warrant. It would then go to print and to mail, and then the town meeting is scheduled for Monday, October 26th at 7 p.m. at the high school. We believe that that is a reasonable time frame if you open the warrant tonight. Deadline of October 2nd. I can do an update for this board of the thing on prior to your October 6th meeting, so there's no surprises in terms of the warrant. We don't anticipate a large warrant. And then we can also talk about, as we did previous, building upon lessons learned on June 15 for another another town meeting, if you will, in the COVID era. We remain optimistic that the fall town meeting will be able to happen on October 26th. Of course, sometimes optimism gets shuttered in the COVID world. So I just think we need to be thinking, and we can discuss this further in the interest of time, but I think we need to just be preparing for the possibility that it has to be postponed or so forth. Right now, the way the warrant looks, there are the 3 articles that the board, and we'll talk about this in more detail, but the 3 articles that the board voted to defer. I know that the housing trust, there are 2 articles, one to create the housing trust, one to fund the housing trust. Ms. Sabal had come before the select board about the bylaw of plastic bags, sort of a sneak preview. And we'll keep you updated, but I don't anticipate, there may be a couple of street acceptances. The talk of the DPW superintendent, it does not look to be a huge one. One other thing, just for public information, because I've got the question, folks have asked, those 3 articles that were deferred, if the town meeting doesn't act on it, or, if the town meeting gets postponed, what happens? Those articles which deferred about 1.5 million will just sit with the free cash. So folks have asked what happens with that. So for tonight, looking for the board to open the warrant. One last thing, I think we should put it on a future agenda. We talk about the town meeting. But my recommendation is that the board consider reducing the quorum, not for the purposes of discouraging people, but by reducing the quorum, we prevent the scenario which we almost have of losing a quorum. So if this board can reduce the quorum as low as 10, doesn't have to be 10, I think we both agree that's a little bit. But we'll talk about some further measures moving forward. The issue of the remote room is a priority. Has been assigned to the IT department in my office. That will be rectified, so we do not have that issue, which is problematic. We'll talk about some of the other things. So for time, just looking to open the warrant.
I was just curious, so just given that time frame,
Yeah.
like close it on October 2nd, did you say? And then we meet, and then it's out to print. And how long does print usually take?
About a week.
And then it's mailed,
Yeah.
and given everything going on at the post office right now, is it really giving people enough time with it?
So if the board approves it on October 6th, and it goes to print on the 7th, printer needs a week, so that puts us at the 14th. When he finishes it on the 14th, printed with the pre-sorted, it goes here to be mailed.
Okay, so it's within here.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's,
We believe that there will be enough time. Also, once the board approves the warrant on the 6th, we will post it electronically. We bring the post, we'll have copies available.
For reduction of the quorum, what's the drop dead date that we have to act on that if the meeting's on the 26th?
So, excellent point. So the statute, as it read, is the board has to vote to reduce the quorum at least 10 days before the town meeting. So you could do it at your October 6th meeting. And then, let's see, meet the 6th, and then the 6th.
Thank you.
That's an excellent point, that if you don't have at least 10 days.
I don't have any more questions.
Okay. I'll make a motion to open the town meeting warrant for the fall special town meeting on October 26th, 2020.
I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye. The opening of the fall town meeting warrant is approved.
Great, thank you. And we'll be doing our usual outreach to folks on that. And then the last item, number 10, and I appreciate all of the time tonight from the board. The first meeting of September that this board would normally meet would be Tuesday, September 1st, which is the state primary. And for the Secretary of State's office, there'd be no public meetings in a public polling place while the vote is taking place. So we seem to keep hitting this throughout the year. We need to move the September date, so from September 1st to another date. I put in the memo, with the new platform and so forth, there were some conflicts. Unfortunately, Wednesday, September 2nd, doesn't work. There's a CPC public hearing that's scheduled. So I don't know if I was going to suggest, just for the conversation, Thursday, September 3rd at 6.
Then I have another meeting at 7 on that date.
On Thursday.
Yeah. No, I do.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
I apologize.
I have one at 7, but,
Okay.
so if this meeting could be at 5:30, I think that's enough time.
I should be able to facilitate that.
Okay.
Worst case scenario, I can do it remotely from my office.
5:30. Have the 3rd.
Yeah, and then that would work.
Okay.
Considering your motion to change it or, no, okay.
It's just a schedule.
It just is, okay, all right.
And Mr. Chairman, and that concludes my report. I appreciate all the time.
Yeah, absolutely, thank you. And don't think there's any other new business or something such.
No, I don't have anything for this evening.
Any to go on. And then the last was the approval of the minutes from our July 14th meeting. I did not see any changes.
I didn't have that, so I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for July 14th, 2020 as presented.
And I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye. And for approval. And if there's nothing else.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the select board at 7:17 p.m.
I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye. And the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.